acknowledge you. Hey, come on up. Nice to see you. Whenever y'all are ready. Good. Great. 4 years ago, when I was running for Attorney General, the state auditor released the results of an investigation into Kentucky's rape kit backlog. And it found that there were over 3,000 previously unsubmitted sexual assault kits just sitting on shelves. It was frustrating and disheartening for the victims because those kits are not just a box on a shelf. They represent a survivor of a horrendous crime, a survivor that had the courage after being traumatized to seek justice, to undergo one of the most invasive forensic exams you could ever ask anyone to take, one that we know further traumatizes that individual, but they were willing to do it because they wanted to see their attacker brought to justice. Yet that courage was locked in a box and forgotten. I was determined that we would get justice for these individuals. From day one in office, we have worked to change the beliefs and the culture in our state that lead to sexual assault. Nearly 1 in 2 Kentucky women are victims of some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. 1 in 2. As a husband, as a father, as a son, I cannot live with that reality, and I believe that it is all of our jobs to change this world in a way to where no one ever has to worry for their own safety. We've worked diligently to make real, impactful, and lasting changes to ultimately change that culture. We worked with the legislature in 2016 to pass comprehensive legislation that addressed timely kit submission and processing times. We conducted statewide stakeholder meetings and created protocols on victim notification and sex crimes investigations. My office was honored to provide $4.5 million of settlement funding to our state crime lab to hire more staff, provide more training, and buy more equipment so this state would never have a backlog again. We committed another $1 million to provide critical training for law enforcement and prosecutors. That training focused on victim-centered investigations, understanding that the most important person in any crime is that victim, is that survivor. And the practices need to start the healing for that individual from the very first interview. We created the Attorney General Survivor Council, a group of survivors of violent crime, including sexual assault and rape, to assist and advise the Office of Attorney General and to push for change. And the members of that council have done such amazing things. We had one individual that in the course of 3 years left a damaging relationship and ultimately went on to pass a bill that eliminated child marriage here in Kentucky. It is a story of triumph, and their courage is incredible. However, critical areas of need remained. So in 2017, my office, in conjunction with the University of Louisville and the Kentucky State Police, received nearly $3 million from the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance. This funding, awarded under the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, or SAKI, S-A-K-I, has been instrumental in moving Kentucky beyond kit testing and notification to comprehensive jurisdictional reform and offender accountability. The SAKI funding allowed us to create a cold case unit inside the Attorney General's office, whose job it is to fight for those that have been denied justice for far too long, to make sure that we had dedicated resources to those individuals whose kits had sat on a shelf maybe a decade or longer. The funding also allowed the Kentucky State Police Crime Lab to continue to research and identify, and we found nearly 1,500 additional kits that weren't counted in that original 3,000. Because our belief is, regardless of the reason, that every kit needs to be tested, that every victim deserves that step, and that we have to seek justice in each and every one of these cases. We also brought on Dr. Brad Campbell at the University of Louisville so that he could study the process as we go, so that we could make sure we never had an example again of someone going through the trauma that it takes for us to get this evidence and nothing be done with it. Kentucky is now what I believe is just one of 2 states in this entire country that has tested every single one of its backlog safe kits. We should be very proud of that here in this state. The 2017 Psaki funding has allowed us to pursue predators that committed these violent, horrendous acts after that testing has occurred, and we have received that evidence. And to date, our cold case unit and prosecutors around the state have a combined 10 statewide indictments linked to the Safe Kit backlog. This includes at least 2 indictments that this office has worked on for an individual that has now been indicted in multiple rapes. In other words, the indictment suggests that we are bringing serial rapists to justice, and that this process is so important to ultimately hold people accountable that have harmed multiple individuals. It includes the arrests and indictments of a Hardin County man alleged to have been involved in 2 separate rape cases in 2011 and 2014, as well as a Louisville man that was arrested in McCracken County for charges related to a 2000 and 2005 sexual assault. The funding is critical for obtaining justice and preventing future assaults. So I'm proud to announce today that the Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance has recognized the truly stellar work of our cold case unit and has awarded our office an additional $1.4 million Psaki grant to assist in the continued investigations and prosecutions to expand our unit and to give us new tools to seek justice in some cases where we may not have a current hit, but we believe more can be done. This is a 3-year grant, and it will fund an additional investigator that will be permanently detailed to the Louisville Metro Police Department, as well as a crime analyst who will join our cold case unit right here in Frankfort. These positions are designated to complement the existing staff, to ultimately expand that unit, and to give us a stronger analytical arm to support the critical analysis of case linkage of serial offenders. I believe that today's grant, the ability to grow this unit, an additional investigator, will mean we will bring more people to justice, and hopefully we will secure that justice faster. Further, the investigation will fund for up to 50 different cases additional ability to investigate when we have DNA that we have extracted from a kit, but it has not had a hit in the CODIS unit, to give us additional tools where we can ultimately tie that DNA to a potential offender. That means in cases that may have stalled right now, we may be able to get the critical information we need to bring someone to justice and to provide justice for a survivor. It takes significant funding and collaboration to address Kentucky's sexual assault cold cases. They are difficult cases, and many of them may be 10, 20, 30 years old. The fact that the U.S. Department of Justice has now recognized not just the quality of this unit, but is investing and expanding it, shows the steps that Kentucky is taking, and ultimately will show how those steps are going to pay off. With this enhanced funding grant, our dedicated partners, we will get justice and make Kentucky a safer place for our families. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions first on this, and then we can excuse these folks and take other questions.
You mentioned that the expansion will include an LAPD officer. How does that translate into also helping, outside of Louisville? Will that LAPD officer also
Right.
work on cases outside of Louisville, or how does that work?
So nearly half of the kits that we have tested as part of the backlog are from Jefferson County. And so what it allows us to do is have a resource where it is most needed, and it will free up our other investigator inside the cold case unit to focus on those cases outside of Louisville. So you have half and half, so those investigators can cover the entire state. And what we've seen thus far is where we are needed most is outside those metropolitan areas, and the collaboration with our Commonwealth attorneys, whether it's in Hardin County or McCracken County, has been really positive. I'm a huge supporter of victims advocates. We have been pushing for years to have a stronger network, regardless of how it's being done. I'm supportive of victims advocates that can reach out and can help families and individuals through very difficult times. And our criminal judicial process is very complicated. It has a lot of different hearings, and without somebody there to explain it and to help that victim along, it can add further trauma to what they've already been through. I think we have a duty to every survivor of violent crime to do everything we can to make sure that the process by which we seek justice doesn't further harm them.
So this is not in response to what the state police did, but
No,
will complement.
absolutely. Anybody else? All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any other topics?